Thank you all for joining us for this webinar about our Creative Aging and Alternative Education Partnership Grants. I'm going to, first to introduce myself, I'm Erica Wilhite. I am the Arts, Learning, and Communities Director, and I am here with Thomas Tran, our Grants Director. And
Hi, good
Thomas,
morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Thanks for joining, everyone, and thanks, Erica. Let's get us started right here. This is our webinar on the transformative power of the arts, grants for creative aging and alternative education. And this is for our upcoming fiscal year 2026 grant period. So thank you all for joining us today. We know this has been a rescheduled webinar, so rescheduled from last week. So thank you for attending. And as always, there will be a recording available of this webinar for you if you have to head out a little bit early or if you would like to refer back. The webinar recording as well as the slide deck from today's webinar will be available to you in a few days, and we'll send it out in an email as well. So welcome from Oklahoma Arts Council. Thanks for joining us today. This is a really special webinar because we are relaunching two of our grant programs that we're pulling over from the previous fiscal year. And we're excited to talk to you all about these opportunities. As always, our work here is to support the arts in Oklahoma, and our mission at Oklahoma Arts Council is to lead, cultivate, and amplify the transformative power of the arts for all Oklahomans and their communities. So throughout all of our grant programs and all of our other agency programs, we like to promote the arts and make sure that everyone has access to these arts opportunities across the state. And these two grant programs that we will be presenting on today is just two of the opportunities that we're able to promote through our mission. So looking at the agenda overview for the webinar today, we're going to do some quick welcome and introductions. Then we'll head into Oklahoma Arts Council grants and our grant funding. Then we'll dive into the details of our two grant programs, the Creative Aging Partnership Grant, and then the Arts and Alternative Education Community Partnership Grants. At the end, we'll go through some quick tips and how to get started and how to apply for grant funding with Oklahoma Arts Council. And then we'll open it up for questions at the end. Some reminders, captions are available by clicking the Show Captions button at the bottom of your window. If you have any questions during this webinar, for time, if you can just type it into the chat box. I don't know about you, but for me, I always forget about my questions if I hold on to them. So feel free to write them down or just submit them in the chat box, and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. And then again, a recording of this webinar is available for you after this session. So to get us started, I'll do some introductions on behalf of the Grants Office. My name is Thomas Tran. I'm the Grants Director here at Oklahoma Arts Council. And in my office, we have Martina Sandoval, our Grants and Programs Associate. Martina is probably the person that you have spoken with before to get access to your grant portal and navigate through our whole grant system. So Martina is the go-to for any of your questions on the grant portal, how to navigate through that, how to verify your organization or get started, or applying for your grant programs as well. We also have Madeline Curry in the Grants Office. She is our Oklahoma Arts Sector ARPA Grants Assistant. So if you are receiving an Oklahoma Arts Sector ARPA grant, then you most likely have spoken with her. She heads up this program and is reviewing everyone's payment requests for that special emergency relief funding. And of course, lastly, this is I'm Thomas Tran, the Grants Director, and I oversee everything else. So if you have any questions about your actual grant award or managing your grant award, please contact me. I'm here to answer any of those questions. I will hand it off to Erica for the arts education team.
thank you. Yes, so I'm Erica Wilhite, Arts, Learning, and Communities Director. I oversee the programs, the education programs that take place in community settings for all ages. And my special initiatives are the Arts and Military Initiative grant, as well as the Creative Aging Partnership Grant. On my team is Jennifer Allen Barron, the Arts Education Director, who works with all of the programs that take place in school settings, and Paige Busick, the Arts Education Assistant.
All
I'll hand it
right,
back to Thomas.
a little bit about our grant funding. So Oklahoma Arts Council has many different programs, including the Governor's Arts Awards, Leadership Arts, the biannual Oklahoma Arts Conference, where we promote the arts and all the awesome things that are happening in our state. But one of the biggest impacts we have on Oklahomans is our grant programs. So for our grant funding annually, we invest about $3 million each year to support arts programming all across the state and all across all four corners. And this grant funding is to be used to expand arts access and arts opportunity. So this grant funding is to be used to support projects or expenditures that focus on artistic disciplines such as music, theater, dance, literary arts, media arts, or visual arts. That's not a conclusive list. That just gives you an idea of what we're able to support. And we have many different grant programs. We have general operating support programs that support our state's largest arts institutions, as well as annual arts funding opportunities like major grant support or our newer grants, such as the Community Experience Grants or the Community Arts Learning Grants as well. So we provide funding to nonprofit organizations that are 501c3 designated by the IRS, as well as government entities and schools across the state. And what you'll be hearing from us today is just two of those grant programs. So with that, I will hand it off to Erica to kick us off with the Creative Aging Partnership Grant.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay. All right. So we've opened applications for the Creative Aging Partnership Grant. This will be the second year of a 3-year grant cycle with the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust. This grant is made possible through a discovery grant, which Oklahoma Arts Council is recipient of. TSET's mission is to improve the health and quality of life of Oklahomans by achieving targeted improvements in the health of all people. So they provide many types of grants. I mentioned that we're a recipient of the Discovery Grant, which we are reinvesting into the arts ecosystem to support arts education programs that serve older adults. Next slide, please. Before I get into the guidelines of the grant, I just wanted to provide some context of the Creative Aging Initiative here. So Oklahoma Human Services has led a collaborative effort to develop a plan called Aging Our Way, Oklahoma's multi-sector plan on aging. And it's meant to prepare the state for an impending and significant demographic shift, which they expect in the next 10 years. They project that the population of older Oklahomans is going to increase significantly by 2034. That means that in just 10 short years, Oklahomans over 60 will outnumber children. And this plan, they call Aging Our Way, engages public, private, and other organizations to address the anticipated population shift in older Oklahomans. Their goal is to give every older adult the confidence to live in their terms and to provide them with the resources needed to lead a healthy lifestyle. Next slide, please. Now, we believe the arts can play a vital role in this plan. We know that because we've seen it firsthand. The arts can have transformative benefits for all people. And there's also evidence that supports this belief. A study led by Dr. Jean Cohen reveals strikingly positive differences between those involved in participatory art programs as compared to a very well-matched control group. And the study concluded that community-based arts programs run by professional artists have powerful positive effects. They point to true health promotion and disease prevention, and there is indeed a positive impact on maintaining independence for older adults and reducing dependency. So these findings could indicate that creative aging programs could impact not just the individuals, but the health systems and other infrastructure that support older adults. Next slide, please. So the program guidelines. These are probably very familiar to you, similar to our other grants. So Oklahoma-based 501c3s, nonprofit organizations, or city, county, state, and tribal governments, colleges and university, public library branches. And not included in this list is school systems or K through 12. Also to note that organizations already receiving our funds are eligible to apply for this grant opportunity. Next slide, please. What type of projects can be supported? Learning-based education programs such as classes, residencies, workshops. Each participant that receives 6 or more hours of hands-on arts instructions is considered to be receiving meaningful instruction. So that's what we call sequential learning, 6 hours or more of hands-on instruction. Next slide, please. And here are our program objectives. So we aim to engage older learners with participatory skill building experiences through sequential learning. We aim to leverage the arts to improve health outcomes for older adults, including connections to support systems, health and wellness benefits, and other support services and resources. And we hope to help Oklahomans age with help, dignity, and connection in their communities, and ultimately create and expand creative aging opportunities across the state. Next slide, please. Here's an overview of the program. So this program will start, the grant cycle starts July 1st and runs through May 31st, which is a little sooner than our other grant cycles, just to point out. The grant amount is up to $30,000 per organization. And I just want to point out that, sorry, I'm going to go back to the first bullet point. This is a grant period of fiscal year 2026. Is that correct, Thomas?
Yes, that's correct. Please excuse
Okay,
the typo.
just to point out the typo because I just read right over it without noticing it myself. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, so that's fiscal year 2026. We're in 25 right now. Okay, so this is a grant that's up to $30,000 per organization. It is a one-to-one match cost share, and half of that match can be in kind. And also up to 20% of the award may be used for administrative fees. The grant request cannot exceed 30% of your organization's operating budget. The application is open now. It opened on February the 2nd, and the deadline is March the 17th at 5 p.m. Central Time. Next slide, please. All right. Grant funding will be in 2 payment disbursements. Evaluation and reporting requirements are also a part of this. An evaluation form will be provided to you. This is an assessment that is measuring mostly the impact on the individual's wellness and health experience. There is, for this particular grant, a cohort model. There will be in this cohort meetings. We meet regularly to connect and swap notes, share ideas, and support each other through this process. There will be creative aging training opportunities provided with this grant, and also site visits and one-on-one mentorships. And next slide, please. Okay, and so the application, you'll be writing the project information, project narratives, a project budget, and support material. Next slide. So this is basic information about your project. The narratives includes, this is the larger portion of your written part. So the goals and outcomes, the description of a more involved description of the project, key artists that you're hiring, project planning and design, hands-on instruction. We're going to want to know about the learning objectives, participation and engagement, community access, project evaluation, and the public value is all in that part of the application. Next slide, please. Your budget, your anticipated project income, anticipated expenses, and then the breakdown of the grant request. So how much of this grant is going towards artistic expenses, administrative expenses, and this here is a list of allowable expenses for this particular grant. And next slide, please. So an optional part of this application is support material. You could include sample curricula and lesson plans, also photos from past creative aging projects or similar projects, and letters of support from community partners. Again, this is optional, but this being a competitive grant, these kinds of pieces of the application would probably help strengthen your application overall. And next slide. Thank you. Okay, so additional opportunities. So this isn't the only grant we have that can support creative aging programs. If you are not already in the operational support tier or the major grant tier, we do have year-round arts learning community arts experience or learning grants. So the learning grants could support your programs as well. So if the Creative Aging Partnership Grant wasn't the best fit for your program, but you still wanted to come in for a grant, this is perhaps a grant that could support that. And also, if you were interested in training and professional development and you were not a part of this cohort as a grantee, Lifetime Arts has on-demand trainings, and these are free asynchronous experiences, as well as we have an archive of creative aging webinars, which we will continue to contribute to throughout the year. Okay, thank you. And here's, again, my contact information and also pages. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss the program and your project ideas. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Erica. So that was our Creative Aging Partnership Grant overview. Next, we are going to head into our Arts and Alternative Education Community Partnership Grants. So this part of the presentation, I will do my best to cover. Our program director overseeing this program is Jennifer Allen Barron, our arts education director. She is not here today, so I will do my best. But if you have any questions, please feel free to contact Jennifer directly or shoot us a message, and we will get your questions answered or get some clarification if needed. So again, this is our program guidelines for our fiscal year 2026 funding cycle. And Jennifer Allen Barron oversees this program along with our arts education assistant, Paige Busick. So to get us started, before we dive into the details of the application, let's get some context and background and by explaining what alternative education is and how it works. So in short, alternative education, often shortened to alt-ed, is another chance for students at risk of high school failure to complete their high school education. You can see in this list of some of the reasons for which a student might be referred to an alt-ed program. So this can include homelessness, pregnancy or illness, excessive absences, involvement with the juvenile justice system. So generally speaking, these are youth who are experiencing significant trauma in their lives. Alternative education programs gives them another chance to earn a high school degree. So why is that important? 75% of Oklahoma jobs require at least a high school diploma, and the median annual wages for those with a high school degree are nearly $10,000 higher than those without. So that information is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Students are less likely to face unemployment throughout their lives. Also, diplomas are required for students for entering higher education, military, or much of the workforce. So these are all important information, and before you head into heading up and partnering with an alternative education site or a program. So what is alternative education programs? So each alternative education program must meet 16 criteria, and these are outlined in the state statutes. So these criteria includes things like smaller class sizes, specific training for teachers, access to counseling and wraparound services, individualized instructions, and others. So you can see a full list of the criteria at the link on the State Department of Education website there. But one important criteria we can pull apart right here is number 13 on the list, and it mentions our agency, Oklahoma Arts Council, by name. So as you can see here, number 13, provide opportunities for hands-on arts education to students, including artist residency programs coordinated with the Oklahoma Arts Council. This means that alternative education programs are not only encouraged to offer the arts, it is a requirement. So these individuals on the screen right here, Missy Korn and Leslie Frazier, are the alternative education coordinators, and they oversee alt ed sites across the state. You can find their information on the State Department of Education's website. So as you've gathered from these past few slides here, alternative education is a very specific program, and alternative education sites must be designated by the State Department of Education. So if you do go to the State Department of Education's website, you can see a full list of those alt ed sites on that website. So if you can see here, impact of arts programs in alternative education schools, these are some words from one of our longtime arts and alternative education participants, Elizabeth Russell. She oversees the FAME Academy in Comanche, Oklahoma. So Elizabeth says, this year, over 59% of our students are considered homeless and 98% are on free reduced lunches. For many of them, school is the one constant positive experience in their lives. Art class gives them the opportunity to succeed and express themselves in a positive manner. And we can see some other examples here of alternative education directors who have said some positive things about the arts in their classrooms. From UConn, we have shown an increase in attendance on art days. By increasing attendance, we increase graduation. And one more from Jenks. This particular project included 100% student participation and satisfaction. One student actually called and set up a time to meet with the manager and set up an internship at the glass blowing school, and will start in the spring. So these are some awesome examples right here of how having an arts program within the alternative education program helps students. Some statistics. So we know that the arts make a difference in education, and we have evidence that this is true, especially for lower income and for struggling students. The figures on this slide come directly from alt ed directors in the state of Oklahoma who have participated in one or more of Oklahoma Arts Council's grant programs. These numbers are taken from alternative education final reports from our fiscal years 2016 to 2023. 94% of alternative education directors saw an increase in school attendance as a direct result of participation in OAC-funded arts programs. And 91% of their students had an increased likelihood of high school graduation as a result. So we know that this is a proven program and a proven partnership that we've seen across the state of arts nonprofits or artists utilizing OAC grants to do some great work in alternative education sites. We've worked with researchers at the University of Oklahoma to measure our claims about student engagement and attendance. So if you can see here that we have some anecdotal information as well as some statistics as well. I'm not going to read all of this for you, but just this slide is pretty dense and it shows some of the findings. Once you get the recording, feel free to look back at this and you'll have the slide deck as well. These are just some more findings from the study, words from school directors. Okay, now heading into our program guidelines and a program overview. So the project activity dates for any programs that you're submitting an application for must fall between these project activity dates. So the program must start between July 1st, 2025 through May 31st of 2026. Excuse the typo there. And this is for grant period fiscal year 2026. For the grant amount, up to $30,000 per organization. So that's your maximum request amount. But keep in mind that there is a 1-to-1 or a 100% cost share or match that's required, and up to 50% of that match may be in kind. Up to 20% of your award may be for administrative fees. So this includes, could be grant writing, it could be administrative time for your support staff or any other managerial or administrative costs. And your grant request cannot exceed 30% of your organization's operating budget. So keep these maxes in mind as you're crafting your grant request and crafting your budget. The application is already open and the application deadline is March 17th of this year. So you still have a few weeks to work on your application and we recommend that you get started soon. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to us ahead of time. So you have plenty of time to dedicate developing your application. And just to note, if you have applied in the past, there are a few changes. So the program is not exactly the same as it has been. So please feel free to read through these overview of these guidelines. Who can apply? So as you can see here, it's a smaller group than those who are eligible to apply for creative aging grants. One question we've received is, how do you define arts-focused nonprofits? If you aren't sure if this describes your organization, we ask you to point to your mission statement and your programming and ask yourself, is your mission and programming arts-focused? Because if it is, then it is more likely that you're an arts-focused 501c3 nonprofit. So if you do have this question, please feel free to reach out to our staff and we can help guide you in this direction. But only arts-focused 501c3 nonprofit organizations can apply for this grant funding opportunity. The full eligibility requirements are outlined on our program webpage on our website at arts.ok.gov. And as in addition, as with the creative aging grants, you can still apply for this grant program, even if you are applying for grants in other categories. So if you are an organizational support or a community arts experience grantee, you can still apply for this additional program. What types of projects can be supported? This is a pretty important slide. In short, we want to see hands-on learning, and we want to see projects designed with alternative education schools and alternative students as the primary beneficiaries. So in the bullet point beginning with in-school classes, you will see an important number of programs where students receive 6 or more hours of sequential hands-on arts engagement are given the highest priority for funding. I know Erica covered this before as well. 6 hours separates 1 hour workshops on different arts media or a project that occurs on one day for 6 hours that sentence did not make any sense. We would like to see 6 or more hours because it's proven that that the sequential hands-on work with the students is beneficial over, let's just say, a 1 hour workshop that students might come in for and get some, like a make and take program. If you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us. Some program objectives. So these are required objectives that we would like to see for anyone receiving support from this grant program. So offering arts education for students in alternative education sites that is tailored to meet individual student and site goals, helping students to overcome learning settings, support arts access and hands-on sequential arts learning to Oklahoma students in alternative education programs, allow participating students to complete a fine arts credit required for graduation, leverage the resources of arts nonprofits to build sustainable, high quality arts education programs for alternative education sites. So these are the program objectives. Please take a look at this and keep them in mind as you're crafting your application, as well as building your program too. The programs that most directly align with these objectives will most likely score higher in our grant application evaluation. So program overview for grant funding. So what this looks like if your organization is selected to receive this grant funding is we process payments in 2 disbursements, usually one halfway through the grant period and one at the end of the grant period after we have received all the evaluation and reporting requirements. In addition, this is a special grant program where we're a little bit more hands-on. So we will be conducting site visits and having regular check-in meetings with all of our grantees just to see how the programs are going, asking questions, and learning from the work that you're doing with these alternative education sites. More details about this are in our program guidelines on the Oklahoma Arts Council website. A brief overview over the application. We start off with project information, gathering basic information about the project you are proposing. Then we dive into narratives. We ask for your budget, and then at the end, we ask for support material. So in the project narratives, as I said before, please refer to the project objectives and our outcomes, how you how you plan to address the different outcomes. We start off with asking about your goals and your outcomes. We dive into a project description. And as we're going through this, please keep in mind that the grant reviewers, the people looking at your application, may not be familiar with your organization, with your community. So please be as descriptive as possible as you're developing that information. Next, we ask for key artists. As Erica stated before, it is important for us. We evaluate artistic quality and artistic merit, and it is required for us to take a look at who is facilitating the programming and the teaching for your program. So key artists, we must have the teachers that are facilitating the arts learning and their qualifications. We just want to make sure that they have the experience of working with students and they have the ability to execute the project. So provide a bio and how much they are being paid and any other details that the application asks for. Project planning and design, we want to see how this program came about and how it's going to be implemented. Hands-on instruction, we want to make sure that the programming that's occurring is meeting all the goals of hands-on learning. We have arts learning objectives, participation and engagement, community access, project evaluation, how you're going to be evaluating your project, what did your students learn, did you achieve your goals and outcomes, and then at the end, public value. Application support material. So there's only one required support material item that you must upload, and these are letters of support from all participating alternative education school directors and staff. So as you're planning your program, if you're working with these alt-ed sites, make sure that you have a letter from each site that you plan on working with. And from our end, we want to make sure that you're engaging with these schools and these sites and that you're planning together because that will definitely help strengthen your application, and our reviewers will know that you're working with them and designing programs with them in mind. We want to make sure that you've taken the steps to build a relationship with the school or the schools that you intend to serve. We've learned that reciprocal collaborative partnerships tend to be more sustainable and that those projects tend to be more successful for all the parties that are involved. In previous years, sometimes if organizations haven't started with these relationships, we have seen projects that might not have been completely fulfilled or executed at the end of the term of the project. So this is a great place to start, is reaching out and talking to these alt-ed sites that you wish to serve. And then optional material includes sample curricula or lesson plans. And if you've done this work in the past, some photos from your past projects. So these on the screen are previous community partners that we have worked with and have received this grant funding in the past. So together with Oklahoma Arts Council, these organizations have partnered to bring hands-on education to students at more than 20 alternative education sites across the state. This includes Art Maker Academy in Pawhuska, Art Space at Entitled in Oklahoma City, the Bart Center for Music in Tulsa, Clarion Arts and Media, Dead Center Film Festival, Edmond Fine Arts Institute, Garvin County Choral Society in Sinfonietta, Painted Sky Opera, and Scissortail Productions. These are some quotes on the screen of some projects in the past. So student testimonials from Edmond Fine Arts Institute. This mural made me feel so connected to my school and peers, which is a rare thing. Honestly, I was able to express myself in every positive aspect. I was inspired by how easily we collaborated as a team, showing admiration from each other's work and art. I adored everything about this project. It was a fun and engaging experience I didn't expect to come up for me. Forever, I will be grateful for those responsible for making this possible. So some awesome testimonials there from Edmond. And these are some photos from Garvin County and some photos from the Bart Center for Music in Tulsa. So that concludes our presentation on the Arts and Alternative Education Community Partnership Grant. Hopefully I got the point across, and apologies for the blips there. But this grant program opportunity is open right now, and the application is due March 17th. Heading into one of the last sections of this webinar today, some general grants office information. So as you're developing your projects and your budgets, some considerations, make sure that you have a balanced anticipated expenses and income. So when you're putting together your budget there, we're looking at what your expenses are for your full project. So include project-specific expenses, your teaching artist fees, any consumable supplies, rentals, facilities, or anything else that you might need, but also include any staff time that you're dedicating. So are you hiring a grant writer, or are you hiring a program manager, or for your organization's time in putting this together? We want you to account for that because it is part of the project expenses. And then on the flip side, your project income, how are you going to be paying for this? Ensure that you provide a full picture of your project and a full picture of where the funding source is. So this can be potential grants that you're applying for, any sponsorships or donation support from other income, and then organizational cash if you are dedicating some of that to the project as well. Again, keep in mind that you should balance it out. So we want to see that you have funding that's available to pay for all of your expenses. Also make sure that you have a sufficient match. You must demonstrate that you have a 1-to-1 cash match or 100% cost share to support your grant request. So let's just say that if you're requesting the full $30,000 grant, then you must also show that you have $30,000 additional dollars from your organization or from other sponsorships to support that $30,000 grant request. So in total, if you're requesting $30,000 from OAC, that means that your project is at least $60,000 in expenses. And of that $60,000, you can have an in-kind contribution. So we define an in-kind contribution as fair market value for donated non-monetary goods or services. So this could be if you are getting support from local businesses that are donating supplies or donating rental equipment that you need for your project. If your artist is providing a discount, or if you're getting some free grant writing services, these have monetary value that you would have had to pay for, but since you're getting that donated or contributed to your organization, you can use this as a cost and put it in your income. Erica, did you have something to add there? Oh, all right. So you could include that, and up to 50% of your match can be in-kind contribution. So let's say that you're requesting $30,000 from OAC, your project is $60,000 total, and so that shows that you need at least $30,000 in match. Of that $30,000, half of that, so up to $15,000 can be in-kind contribution. So if your contributed value of goods or services is up to $15,000 of value, then you would only need $15,000 in cash in your income that's required. Next, detailed ticket tuition income. This isn't as applicable for this grant program because alternative education is dealing with students who are in school, and they typically don't need to be paying for being a part of the project. General allowable expenses, so what OAC grant funds can pay for: artist fees, technical fees, administrative fees, marketing expenses, facility, equipment, supply rental, and other project-specific consumable supplies. And we can also use this funding to pay for accessibility accommodations like CART services or ASL interpreters. And then as a reminder, as I stated in the previous slide, administrative fees cannot be more than 20% of the grant request, and your grant request cannot exceed 30% of your organization's annual budget. And let's look at some unallowable expenses. So Oklahoma Arts Council grant funding can only be used to support specific expenses, and we ask you to outline that in your proposal so we can make sure that they are allowable. But just by statute and state administrative rules, on the screen here, you can see unallowable expenses. So some things that you cannot use this grant funding to pay for: no capital expenses or building improvements. We cannot do permanent arts installations. You also cannot use this funding to pay for scholarships, cash prizes, or awards. No food or drink or catering, no per diem or hospitality expenses. And these are just a few here. But if you want to see the full list, please refer to the grant program guidelines as well as Oklahoma Arts Council's general grant terms and conditions. So the application process for both of these grant programs is first, you'll submit your application. If you have enough time to submit a draft application, that gives us more time to take a look and see if we have any questions. And if there is sufficient time, we can work with you to finesse your application to make sure that it's strong enough to bring to our grant panel for funding decisions. And then after that, our grant review panel will be reviewing your application. We'll make funding decisions or funding recommendations that we bring to our governor appointed council, who makes the final funding decisions on most of our grant awards. After the council decides on final grant awards and grantees, then the grantees will be issued a pre-award notice by email. In there, the grantee will complete pre-award requirements, such as updating their state of Oklahoma supplier information and any additional information that's required, such as uploading other paperwork, and then reviewing and signing the grant contract. Once the pre-award requirements are submitted, our staff will review all of those, make sure that everything is squared up, and then we will issue a notice of award, and that's when your award actually officially begins with Oklahoma Arts Council. After you receive your notice of award, then the project occurs. If there are any changes that are needed, a grant amendment must be submitted through the grant portal. And then at each reporting phase, you will need to submit your report and your permit request amount. So using the online grant portal, you must apply through our grant portal, flux.io, or you can also get there by visiting our website at arts.ok.gov. If you are new to our grant portal, you will need to register for a new user account. And make sure that you are registered and that your organization is verified, so that verified by our office, meaning that you have uploaded all of your required documentation. You must be verified or you cannot submit a grant application. So if you have not been verified yet, or if you have questions, contact our grants office, contact Martina Sandoval, and we'll work with you to get this information in, but you must be verified or else you cannot submit a grant application. Late or incomplete submissions are subject to an award penalty, and we also may not review the grant application as well if they are submitted late. So please start early, communicate with our office if anything comes up. Please save your work often. The grant portal does not auto-save, so make sure you don't lose any of your work. And when you are done and you're ready to submit, you must click the submit button and then confirm that you're submitting the application. If you do not click the submit button, we do not receive your submission and it is considered not submitted. So in this case, if you do not submit your application, the deadline passed, it's considered late and we may not review the application. And also, please ensure that the email addresses at flux.io and at docusign.net are on your safe senders or your whitelist on your email, because that's what we will be emailing from. And make sure you receive the updates that we send to you by adding these addresses to your safe senders list. And if you have any questions about these grant programs, our contact information is on the screen here. Erica Wilhite for your creative aging partnership questions, Jennifer Allen Barron for arts and alternative education, also Paige Busick, our arts education assistant. And then if you have questions about grant portal access or navigating through the grant portal, contact Martina Sandoval, and any other questions about your grant management, you can contact me. All right. So that is the end of our slide deck right there. And I see that there are many questions in the chat box. So I know, Erica, you have been answering some. Can you catch me up to speed? And we can also tackle any other questions.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Thomas. So we did have a question regarding, can you hear me? We did have a question. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great.
It cut
Um,
out a little bit there.
oh, okay, okay. So yes, someone did ask about the deadline of March the 17th, and this is for the um, for the sorry, the creative aging grant. I'm just looking at. Okay, and you know what? I responded so quickly, I do have to clarify my answer. So, Erin, thank you for your question about the March 17th deadline. The question was, will there be another opportunity to apply next year? And at a glance, acting swiftly, I shared a link to alternative education grants that are available throughout the year. But I'm seeing now that you're asking about creative aging. But this question does apply to both of those grants. So we do intend to offer the grant again next year. We do um, have a process where we request it through TSET. We are on a 3-year grant program, and so we're hoping and feel confident that we will. However, if you miss the March 17th deadline, and this is the same for the alternative education program, we do have other grants that could support those projects throughout the year. I mentioned a rolling deadline for our smaller grants, the Community Arts Experience Grant and the Community Arts Learning Grant. You just need to apply 60 days before the project start date. And there is an alternative education grant as well that you could use for your for those partnerships. So sorry for the answer that was not completely accurate, but just to clarify that we hope to offer this grant next year. You can still apply for funding for this year. It's just up to $5,000, and that rolling deadline means 60 days before your project starts. I'll give Erin, I'll give you a chance to pipe in if you wanted any more information around that, or anyone else.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. And just to add on to the question and response there too. So March 17th is the deadline for these two grant programs, the fiscal year 2026 Creative Aging Partnership and the Arts and Alternative Education Community Partnership. And this is for projects that are occurring between July 1, 2025 through June 30 or May 31st of 2026. And funding is a contingent on, of course, our funding sources, who we get funding from, TSET, as well as the Oklahoma State Legislature. So what we're looking at timeline-wise, after you submit your application on March 17th, is there's a review process with our grant review panels, and we bring our recommendations to our governor-appointed council in June, who will make the final funding decisions. And we usually send out award notifications at the end of June or the beginning of July. So if you apply for funding, the earliest you'll hear from us regarding funding decisions is late June, early July.
There was another question about the Creative Aging Grant. If they are currently receiving the grant, are they eligible to apply? And I responded, yes, you are. So feel free
Awesome.
to
And
type it another. Go ahead, Thomas.
oh, you're good, Erica. I see that Erica mentioned, unlike our arts education, creative aging programs can charge tuition, and that income can be part of a budget. That is important to note there. Thanks for clarifying. So each of these programs look a little bit different. But if you have any additional questions, feel free to ask us. But yeah, the budget looks a tad different between the two.
Any other questions? You can use the chat to ask your question, or you can come off mute. I'm reading a question. Can you say at this time if any of the Oklahoma Arts Council funding opportunities will be affected by the federal executive orders? Thomas, do you want to respond to that question?
Yes, thanks, Erica. And thanks for the question, too. So, Oklahoma Arts Council does receive funding from the federal government through the National Endowment for the Arts, as well as funding from the Oklahoma State Legislature, the state of Oklahoma. So, all of our funding falls under the rules, laws, and requirements and regulations of the federal government and the state government. And this does include any executive orders that is issued on the federal level or the state level. So all Oklahoma Arts Council grantees are required to abide by any executive orders or any other laws or statutes that are required. And all of those are outlined in the Oklahoma Arts Council grant terms and conditions. So the grant terms and conditions are linked on each grant program's webpage on our website. But if you have additional questions, feel free to give me a call. My information is on our website and the slide deck as well, if you have any specifics. But yes, the answer to your question is yes, you're required to follow all executive orders.
Feel free to come off mute if you want to ask a question or use the chat feature. We will be following up to for everyone that registered today. We'll send you an email with the link to the recorded webinar session, as well as the slide deck. So, and again, we are always available to answer any questions. If you want to schedule some time for a meeting, we're happy to meet with you to discuss your thoughts and your questions.
Oh, I did just think of one thing, Erica. One thing to note. So these grant programs are relatively new to our agency. We are completing our first year right now with the Creative Aging Partnership and our Arts and Alternative Education Community Partnership. We are in year 4, I believe. So from these programs, what we really learned is just the value of nonprofit organizations partnering with other organizations, either through their communities or with schools and alternative education sites. And that's something that we are really excited to be offering, and also to just see the partnerships that grow and all the things that are happening on the community level through these programs. So like I mentioned earlier, these programs are very different from our other OAC grant funding opportunities. They are much more hands-on. We get the chance to talk and check in with all of our grantees and really get to learn from each other through this process. So funding through these programs is just not, it's not just the grant funding. We know that funding is a very large part of this program, but it's also about what we learn from it and how that informs the work of our agency and how we move forward to expand arts opportunities and learn about effective ways that we're reaching people in Oklahoma as well. So these are some very exciting grant opportunities that we're offering, and we're just excited to have you all here and tell more about what's possible. So with that, then, if there are no more questions, again, like Erica said, we are always here to answer your questions. But we can end the webinar now and send you the link soon. Any final thoughts to add, Erica?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. You'll be hearing from us soon, and hope to talk to you. And you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.